sound ready.
That was the 10 times I did it in the car, maybe. There is freedom within, there is freedom without. Try to catch the deluge in a paper cup. There's a battle ahead, many battles are lost, but you'll never see the end of the road while you're traveling with me. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. You know that they won't win. Now I'm towing my car, there's a hole in the roof. My possessions are causing me suspicion, but there's no proof. In the paper today, tales of war and of waste, but you'll turn right over to the TV page. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. You know that they won't win. Now I'm walking again to the beat of a drum, and I'm counting the steps to the door of your heart. Only shadows ahead, barely clearing the roof. Get to know the feeling of liberation and release. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. You know that they can't win. Don't ever let them win. Hey now, don't ever let them win.
Hi, and welcome to It Might Get Personal. I'm David McCreath. My guest today is Jason Snell, and he just sang Don't Dream It's Over by Crowded House.
Right, Neil Finn. Crowded House, yes.
Yeah. It was originally recorded by Crowded
House in 85, 86. Yeah.
Right, and Neil Finn now does it.
Yeah, when he's solo, I think Neil Finn can't play a concert without playing. I have seen Crowded House not play Don't Dream It's Over in a concert once. And afterward, we're like, they didn't play it. Wow. But really, it's obligatory for him now.
Yeah. I wonder, it's a nice song. It's a nice enough song to sing and play that I wonder if, like you hear people say that they get tired of their signature song. Like, I just don't want to play that anymore. But that one seems like...
It's a nice 3-minute pop song. I think he's probably proud of it, and they've, not in America but in the rest of the world, they had so many other hits that it's not that big a burden. In the US, I think it's basically their only hit. There
was one other one.
Well, they did Something So Strong, and Now We're Getting Somewhere, and that first album had a bunch of songs, but after that they were strictly a kind of UK and Europe and Australia, New Zealand kind of band.
And they're from Australia originally, right?
Yeah, Neil Finn's from New Zealand. Half the band was from New Zealand and half from Australia, basically.
And are they... I should know this off the top of my head, but they're the ones, or at least some of them were in a band called Split Enz.
Yeah, Neil's brother Tim was in Split Enz, and at some point they obligatorily sort of invited the 15-year-old little brother to the band, and he
turned out to be this incredibly talented guy on his own. and then when that Split Enz broke up, Neil Finn tried to keep Split Enz going, and then he finally decided to go. Got a record contract, go to LA, start a new band, and that was they were living in a little tiny house in LA while they were recording the album, and that's where the name came from. It was a crowded house.
All right.
Yeah.
So what's the significance of the song to you?
My wife asked me that when I said I was going to sing it. She's like, "Why? So why is that significant? I know you love it. It is my favorite song from my favorite band of all time. I love the 3-minute pop song genre in general, and this is one of those beautiful melodic 3-minute pop songs. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that. I love the lyrics. Neil Finn is not one of those lyricists who writes literal lyrics. It's very poetic. What does it all mean? It's got a lot of great imagery in it. I love the fact that most of the words are about sort of terrible circumstance, but the choruses are about optimism in the face of the terrible circumstances. So I think that's beautiful, and it can be applied to life in so many different ways. When you talk about life being a mixture of joy and sorrow, that's what this song is about. It's sort of indomitability in the face of terrible events, and everything seems stacked against you. And on a personal level, it's nostalgic for me. My junior year in high school, I worked at my high school radio station. We had a radio station, and there was a girl toward the beginning of the year who, she was an interesting person. She was into, punk and new wave and stuff that I considered sort of scary music at the time, and which I don't at all now. And she was kind of an outcast of her own making in some ways. She didn't talk to people, and I thought she was great, but she just didn't want to. She didn't want to engage. She didn't want to participate in things. And then one day she walked up to me and said, with a 45 from the studio, and said, "Neil Finn and Mitchell Froom, Crowded House, Don't Dream It's Over. Play this song on your radio show. You will love this song." And it was one of those moments that I look back and I was like, "Oh my God," because that became my favorite song by my favorite band. And she was totally right. And it's just funny that out of somebody who in many ways was like, why isn't she more engaged, and why doesn't she want to be more participatory and friendly with people, out of the blue, she came out and said, "You will love this," and she was completely right. So it takes me back to that point in my life. They were the first band I saw live.
Oh, really?
In my freshman year in college, they played at UC San Diego in the main gym, and it was about 120 degrees, and I remember it being a fun show. And about 6 months ago, I got a message in my inbox from somebody I had never heard of before, who said, "I have heard that you might be interested in this show," and he had a Dropbox link to a pristine soundboard copy of that concert.
Wow!
So that came out of the blue too. So I got lots of nostalgia of music and my teenage years wrapped up in this song too.
It's crazy how many of those soundboard recordings show up. Out there.
A guy I work with, John Seff, has made it his personal goal to get a recording of every show that he's been at, and it's shocking that, and he goes to a lot of concerts. He's got almost every one, and some of them are like 20 years old, and some of them are soundboard recordings. So the internet has kind of connected all those disparate elements that used to be, you knew it was out there, but who knew where it was, and now it's on the internet in a database. But this guy had seen a thing I wrote on the Crowded House mailing list when I was in college or grad school, where they were compiling like a database of all of the concerts. And I said, well, I went to this concert and nobody else seems to have, so here's what happened. And it had my email address on it that I still have. And the guy just emailed me and said, "Hey, you wrote about that concert. Here it is." Wow. Crazy.
Let's hear it for internet permanence. Holding on to those email addresses.
Yeah. Just because you knew a guy who was on the soundboard and he gave you a tape, I guess.
That's crazy. So how big was that show? Like I was in a sort of a different music scene. I knew people who loved Crowded House, and I heard the stuff when I was at work, and I appreciated it, but it wasn't like they weren't part of my experience. So how big was that show in San Diego?
Well, that was after their second album came out, which was, they joked, there was a Rolling Stone article that I remember from the time where they said the code name was Mediocre Follow-Up, and it's actually a pretty good album, but it didn't hit. The first single from it was a disaster, and in fact they aborted that tour. So I was one of only like 5 stops, I think, that they did that tour, and then they pulled the plug on it. It was, but they were still known. It was a college crowd, but it was basically during spring break. So, and it was in the old main gym at UCSD. So I don't know how many people were there. I would say maybe 1,000. It was relatively small. I was standing on the floor of the gym, probably a row of people back from the band, which was pretty cool. And there were people up in the rafters in the seated sections too. Yeah. And it was pretty cool. They were and are, because they have sporadically reformed. It's a great live band, surprisingly. I tell people who are fans of jam bands and things like that are like, oh, they're really about the live performance, that Crowded House is actually a great live band. They have a lot of great banter. The songs grow and change over the years.
That's cool.
And I love those guys, but they are great to see live. I've seen other bands I love live and been like, yeah, okay, I didn't need to see that. But they are, they're fun to see live, which is why I've seen them so many times. But on that was a special night because it was this small, brutally hot venue. It was also a 2-minute walk from my dorm room. That was a pretty cool thing. And it turns out a rare thing because they gave up shortly thereafter and didn't tour again in the US for probably, 3-4 years. So
wow. Cool. Well, that's a great story. I love that the soundboard recording showed up.
It mystifies me. I think why this guy had it too. That I know they made a practice of recording everything. Some bands do that, but that far back and that somebody random on the internet had it. That
somebody took the time to digitize it.
That's a treasured thing for me. You get your first concert. I mean, it's like having this. You didn't know it when you took your first steps or when you were on your first date with your first girlfriend. But we happened to just have video that was shooting, and I found you, and here it is. And it's like weird milestone of your life, plus something that I had only had my memories to go on about what they said and what they played for 20 plus years.
How close was your memory?
It was pretty good. Yeah. It was pretty good. Some songs that I didn't recognize then, now I've heard so many times since that they were like split end songs that it makes more sense to me now. And I do remember them talking about how hot it was and that there was they were like trying to break a world record in the swimming pool behind the gym of like water polo, playing water polo for like 40 hours. And the band had gone and seen the water polo players. And at one point they brought some water from the pool and threw it in the audience because we were so hot. And it's in there. Pretty cool. So I didn't confabulate the whole thing. It was actually a good memory.
Cool. That's excellent. So you also have a podcast.
Yes. Doesn't everybody?
I know at this point. I was on Let's Make Mistakes, another Mule podcast, a couple of weeks ago, talking about whether podcasting has hit its blogger moment where everybody just suddenly has a podcast, and I think we're just about there.
We're very close.
Yeah. But yours is The Incomparable.
The Incomparable, right. It's not another tech podcast, which I've got going for me. I know you appreciate this too, since you were also not on a tech podcast. It's The Incomparable. We've been going for coming up 3 years now. We're about to do our 150th episode.
Wow.
And it's I say kind of geek culture podcast. So it's TV, movies, books, comics, mostly of the sci-fi, fantasy, superhero kind of sort. But we branch out and do other things. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Die Hard, things like that. And it's basically a group of people, a group of friends talking around a table virtually about a movie or a TV show or something they saw either recently or just something that's a classic that they loved. And it's a good conversation. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. And it's nice to do something that is not about technology because, if everybody's got a podcast, certainly everybody's got a tech podcast. So it's nice to do something that's a little outside of my day job.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So this has been Jason Snell. I'm David McCreath. The song was Don't Dream It's Over by Crowded House and Neil Finn. Be sure to go to muleradio.net and check out our other podcasts. If you want to be on this podcast, go to itmightgetpersonal.com and there's a form you can fill out. Or you can @ me on Twitter. I'm McCreath. And we'll see you next time.